Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving straight into a totally fantastic devotional to figure out how we can grow some truly amazing things in our own lives. And, I don't mean growing taller or trying to grow some giant pumpkin in the backyard. I mean growing the good stuff on the inside, like joy and kindness and peace. So let's just get right into it, because the devotional we're looking at today uses this absolutely incredible picture from nature to show us exactly how this all works.
All right, I want you to picture something with me for a second. Imagine you're walking through a park, right? And you spot a tree that's dropped a bunch of leaves and branches everywhere. You bend down, you pick up this dry, snapped-off stick from the grass. Now, what if you grabbed a piece of tape, found a fresh green leaf, and just taped it right onto that dead stick? Would that leaf suddenly spring back to life? Or hey, if you planted that dry stick in the dirt and just sat there waiting, would it suddenly pop out a shiny, crisp red apple? No way, of course not. A broken stick sitting there on the ground is completely lifeless on its own. It's got no water, no nutrients, no energy. It's literally just a stick. Keep that picture in your head because it hits the nail on the head for the very first point of our devotional.
Part 1. The broken stick.
So here's the big problem the devotional brings up, and honestly, it's something we all face. We basically have two options. On one hand, we've got the severed branch. The text shows us that when we try to do everything totally by ourselves, when we try really, really hard to just be good without any kind of help, we're exactly like that severed, broken stick. We end up leafless and apparently completely lifeless. We get tired, we get cranky, and we just can't seem to grow the good things we actually want to grow. But then look at the alternative. The grafted branch is flourishing, it's growing, it's alive. Why? Because it's connected to a powerful, living plant. The passage lays out the really sad reality of trying to survive on our own, but then flips it to show us the awesome potential of what happens when we finally get connected.
Which brings us to part 2. Meet the living vine.
Okay, so if we definitely don't want to be that dry, broken stick on the ground, what's the solution? What exactly do we need to connect to? Well, the devotional introduces us to the living vine, and it defines that vine as Jesus. And we're not just talking about a good teacher from way back when. We learn here that he, quote, has life in himself. That means he has this never-ending, overflowing supply of life, love, and energy. And honestly, the absolute best part? He doesn't just hoard it all for himself. The text clearly states that he offers to impart it freely. He actually wants to share his purity, his honor, and his strength with us. So if we're the dry little branches, he's the massive, super strong, deeply rooted vine that has literally all the water and nutrients we could ever possibly need.
So now the million-dollar question. How does a dry little branch actually get all that good stuff from the vine? It happens through this super cool process in nature called grafting. Have you ever heard of this? Grafting is a totally real science fact. A gardener can take a dry, sapless branch, cut a little notch into a living, healthy tree, and physically attach the dry branch right into the living one. This passage describes it so beautifully. It explains how, fiber by fiber and vein by vein, the dry branch actually drinks in the life and the strength of the vine. It literally becomes a part of the vine. It's not just taped onto the outside like our first example, it connects on the inside, and that life juice, the sap, just starts flowing right into it.
And wow, this just brilliantly illustrates what happens to us. The devotional puts it in this incredibly powerful quote: "The sinful and human is linked to the holy and divine." Think about that for a second. When we get grafted into Jesus, all of our mistakes, our weaknesses, our human struggles, they get directly linked up to his perfect, holy, and divine strength. We're not just standing next to him hoping some of it rubs off. We become united with him. His life actually becomes our life. It's a real game changer.
All right, part 3. Getting connected.
Now, grafting sounds amazing for trees, but obviously you and I aren't actually made of wood. So how do we, in our everyday, normal lives, actually get grafted in? How do we get connected? Well, the text doesn't just leave us guessing. It gives us very specific, totally doable steps for how to take every single opportunity to connect ourselves closely to Christ. Step 1, believing him. That simply means trusting that what he says is absolutely true. Step 2, loving him. Spending time with him in prayer or reading about him so your heart just naturally grows to love him more. And step 3, copying him. This means looking at how Jesus treated people, like how incredibly kind he was to the outcasts, or how he forgave people, and then just trying to do the exact same thing. We learn here that by believing him, loving him, copying him, and depending completely on him, we become one with him. That right there is how we get grafted in.
Now think about your absolute best friend in the whole world for a minute. When you spend a ton of time hanging out with someone, what usually happens? You start using the same catchphrases, you start liking the same video games, you might even accidentally start dressing alike. Well, this reading brings up that exact super cool point. It points out that when persons are closely united, their tastes actually become similar. They come to love the very same things. So, when you get connected to Jesus by believing, loving, and copying him, you just naturally start to love the things he loves. You don't even have to force it. You just start wanting to be kind, and you naturally cherish and obey his commandments, all because your heart is starting to match his.
Moving on to part 4, growing the good fruit.
So once we're connected, and once that sap of Jesus' character is finally flowing into us, what happens next? Look at this fantastic quote right from the text. So the Christian, abiding in Jesus, will bring forth fruit. Now notice something really important here. It does not say the Christian will struggle and sweat and strain and panic to bring forth fruit. No, an apple tree doesn't groan and squeeze to make an apple, right? The fruit just grows naturally because the branch is attached to the tree. The devotional emphasizes that growing good fruit in our lives is just the natural result of staying connected, or abiding in Jesus. If you just stay plugged in, the fruit is literally guaranteed to grow.
And what exactly does this fruit look like? Well, check out this amazing list. The text calls these the precious graces of the Spirit. When you're grafted into the living vine, this is the exact stuff that blooms in your life. Love for others, true, deep joy, even when things are super tough, peace instead of constant worry, long-suffering, which, by the way, is really just a fancy word for having incredible patience with your siblings or your friends, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance, which basically just means self-control. Imagine having a life totally overflowing with all of these beautiful traits. That is the rich, fragrant fruit the author says will manifest in your life for sure.
But why does all this matter? I mean, why is it absolutely crucial that we bear this fruit? Because it's all about revealing his character to the whole world. The devotional wraps up with this brilliantly simple thought. By growing these fruits through our everyday words and our actions, we actually get to show the whole entire world what Jesus is like. Think about it. People can't physically see Jesus walking down the street right now, but they can see you. And when they see your love, your joy, and your patience, they are actually getting a real-life glimpse of the living vine that you're connected to. You essentially become a walking display window for the character of Christ. So I want to leave you with a question to chew on today. If you choose to stay connected to the living vine today, if you make the choice to believe him, love him, and copy him right now, what kind of amazing, good fruit will you grow tomorrow? Just remember, you definitely don't have to be a dry, broken stick trying to survive out there on your own. You can be grafted into the ultimate source of life. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you're feeling inspired to go out there and grow some incredible fruit.